There is a moment that cannot be scheduled or predicted. It arrives in the silence, often without announcement. It is the decision to stop being who you have been. This is not the loud kind of transformation that others can see. It is the quiet removal of what no longer belongs. It begins when you realize that certain behaviors, reactions, and thought patterns have been allowed to live too long inside you. They no longer serve your principles, yet they remain out of habit. Stoicism demands that you take responsibility for the structure of your inner world. That structure must be built on reason, virtue, and discipline, not excuses, attachments, or approval. The Stoics taught that a person must be reborn through choice, not chance. This rebirth is not about external change. It is an inward reordering of priorities, a dismantling of false identities, and a disciplined rebuilding on firmer ground. That process is often done alone, not in isolation, but in solitude. Solitude is the training ground for sovereignty. It is where you begin to reforge your mind into something stronger, cleaner, and quieter. This video is a guide for that work. It is not a call for retreat, but a call to rise, sharpen, and lead yourself without delay. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The decision to end what no longer serves you. Transformation begins with subtraction. Before you can rebuild, you must destroy. That destruction is not reckless, it is deliberate and sustained. Begin with your habits. Observe them as a scientist would. Track them without emotional reaction. Identify what strengthens your judgment, your energy, and your discipline. Identify what makes you reactive, passive, or unfocused. Strength and weakness are revealed through repetition, not exception. You must be ruthless in your assessment. If a habit consistently weakens you, then it has no place in your life. Sentimentality has no place here. Holding on to old behavior because it feels familiar is the same as choosing stagnation over progress. The longer you allow unexamined habits to remain, the more authority they gain over your time, attention, and long-term outcomes. The Stoics understood that the first battlefield is the one within. They trained to identify attachments and assumptions that distorted their perception. They saw illusions for what they were, distractions disguised as duties or comforts. Ask yourself, who are you when your routines are stripped away? Who are you without the roles you perform out of habit or obligation? What would remain if you gave up every comfort that now defines your sense of identity? These are not abstract questions. They are tools to uncover what has become automatic in your life, but no longer serves a rational purpose. To destroy the old you, you must be willing to give up what has become comfortable but hollow. Anything built on passivity, approval-seeking, or escape must be dismantled. In daily life, this begins with simplicity. Simplify your inputs. Simplify your expectations. Cut the excess in your physical space, your digital routines, and your mental assumptions. Limit the opinions you allow to shape you. Refuse to be ruled by other people's noise. Pay attention to the small decisions because they reveal your true alignment. The end of the old you is not dramatic. It is systematic. It is disciplined. It happens in your food choices, your sleep patterns, your use of language, your relationships, and your attention to your surroundings. These are the places where change is either built or denied. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are declaring an end to disorder, distraction, and indecision. To make this real, begin immediately. Start by identifying 3 specific behaviors that consistently drain your energy and create internal resistance. These may be actions you repeatedly justify despite knowing they slow your momentum. Do not delay the evaluation process. Write them down clearly. Examine how often they occur, what triggers them, and what they prevent you from doing. Pay attention to the cost of maintaining them: lost time, reduced focus, weakened resolve. Do not engage in self-debate once the behavior is identified. Make the decision to remove it. Avoid conversations that dilute your clarity. The rebuilding process depends on your willingness to act without negotiation. Every moment spent rationalizing is a moment diverted from restructuring. Recognize that mental clutter often hides behind small excuses. The more cleanly you cut, the more quickly you begin to gain ground. Once the behaviors are removed, replace them with deliberate actions that strengthen presence and structure. Choose replacements that require attention, reinforce order, and promote responsibility. These are not meant to be complex or impressive. They are meant to be reliable. Commit to waking at a specific time and doing so without compromise. Introduce short periods of silence each day to become more aware of your thoughts and impulses. Establish fixed times for input, such as checking messages or consuming information, and refuse to break them. Stability builds from consistency. The quality of your actions improves when they are repeated with care and intention. If the task is small but deliberate, it teaches precision. If the task is uncomfortable but controlled, it teaches strength. Each action becomes part of a mental structure that does not depend on feeling inspired. It functions because it is chosen. The shift happens when your schedule, environment, and thought patterns begin to align with your principles instead of reacting to your moods. You stop waiting to feel like doing the right thing. You begin doing it as a matter of identity. This is the first sign that the old framework is being replaced. What was once inconsistent becomes your new default. You do not wait for external permission to begin. You do not wait for signs, motivation, or a perfect set of circumstances. You establish the new structure with what is available. You adjust it as you go. But you begin now. The rebuilding process starts with action, not theory. This is how you regain control of your direction. This is how the new self takes shape. Chapter 2. Rebuilding the self in solitude. Solitude is not absence. It is presence without noise. It is the condition in which distractions are removed and awareness is sharpened. It is the space where you hear what matters and shut out what does not. It is a clean environment for thought, reflection, and restructuring. In solitude, nothing competes for your attention. There is no pressure to respond, no expectation to perform. This stillness becomes a mirror for the mind. You begin to see clearly what you have ignored in motion. Most people fear solitude because it confronts them with who they really are. It removes the buffers and external inputs that allow avoidance. There are no mirrors, no applause, no validation. There is no one to blame or impress. There is only the work, the effort to observe, question, and realign. The habits that are usually hidden behind busyness become fully visible. This is where the Stoic builds. Solitude is not a break from life. It is the training ground where the mind is strengthened and prepared to meet life without confusion. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. When you are alone, that person must be yourself. You are both teacher and student, the one who sets the direction and the one who follows it. You are responsible for guiding your own learning and correcting your own misjudgments. You must examine your thoughts without influence. Use solitude to identify whether your values are examined or simply absorbed from others. Question what you believe and why you believe it. Ask whether your values support strength, consistency, and order, or whether they serve avoidance, conformity, or fear. These are not casual reflections. They are evaluations of the internal framework that shapes your daily decisions. Most values are accepted passively. They are picked up from family, media, peers, or old experiences. They are rarely investigated. They are absorbed without deliberate approval, stored without structure, and used without verification. This passive collection becomes the framework through which you perceive the world and justify your choices. Many of these values are outdated, reactive, or inconsistent with the direction you now want to move in. Yet they remain in place because they are familiar. They operate as background programs that influence your actions without your awareness. Solitude creates the conditions for that investigation. It removes interference. It allows you to isolate each idea and trace it back to its source. In the absence of noise, you can ask direct questions and receive honest answers. You begin to see whether your values support stability or instability. You learn whether they produce strength or excuse weakness. You assess whether they are based on facts, assumptions, or fear. This kind of questioning is uncomfortable, but it is necessary if you want your beliefs to become tools for discipline rather than shields for avoidance. Without constant feedback or social input, you begin to see which values actually guide your behavior. You observe the internal conversation that directs your choices. You recognize the gap between what you say you value and what you actually reinforce through your daily actions. This clarity becomes the foundation for deliberate restructuring. When you replace assumption with inspection, you remove confusion. You begin to test each belief against results. If it weakens your focus, it is adjusted or removed. If it strengthens your focus, it is sharpened and embedded deeper into your structure. You stop assuming and begin verifying. You no longer accept ideas just because they feel right or are widely repeated. You stop copying and start defining. You take full ownership of the principles that shape your conduct. These shifts mark the beginning of internal authorship, the process of owning your mind. Your direction is no longer outsourced. It is created by your own hand, reinforced by your own review, and corrected by your own standard. Structure is necessary in solitude. Unstructured time tends to default to distraction. Drifting invites regression. To remain focused, you must give your solitude a clear form. Start by fixing your wake time. Follow it with a short period of writing. Record your objectives. Track your energy. Identify your distractions. Move your body to activate awareness. Eliminate passive scrolling or random input. Assign each part of your day a specific theme or activity: reading, reflection, execution, or rest. Designate periods for reading, reflection, and task execution. Do not wait until you feel ready. Set the time, follow it without exception. Limit external input. Filter what enters your mind with precision. Choose information based on whether it sharpens your thinking or weakens it. Discard anything that clouds judgment or amplifies noise. Build a personal archive of ideas and materials that are aligned with your goals. Track the movement of your attention throughout the day. Pay attention to the first place your mind wants to go when you feel bored or restless. Measure how quickly it seeks escape. Count how often you look for interruption. Identify the types of stimulation you chase and what they interrupt. Monitor how your thoughts shift when stimulation is removed. Solitude reveals the mechanics of mental dependency. It shows what you use to avoid stillness. Each moment of resistance to distraction is a moment of progress. Each instance where you choose to stay with discomfort builds discipline. Stillness is not a gap. It is a tool. It trains you to stay when your impulse is to run. It creates the conditions for sustained attention and deliberate correction. It teaches you that stability is built on attention, not mood. Stillness becomes a working space where your values are updated, your thoughts are clarified, and your intentions are organized. When practiced regularly, it reshapes your baseline for decision-making. The process of rebuilding in solitude depends on how you respond to your own flaws. Do not deny them, and do not excuse them. Do not magnify them either. Treat them as mechanical issues, not emotional ones. Treat them as problems to be solved. Study them with the seriousness of someone restoring a structure. Break them into patterns. Identify the sequence that leads to failure. Look at how your patterns of thought lead to recurring behaviors. Look at what reinforces those behaviors. Examine the routines, thoughts, and inputs that keep them alive. Identify the moments when your clarity drops and your consistency fails. Study the environmental factors, physical states, or social dynamics that increase the likelihood of relapse. These are the points where redesign is required. You do not need to fight your flaws. You need to understand the system that allows them to persist, and then change that system. Structure replaces resistance. Strategy replaces frustration. Solitude removes the noise that conceals personal weakness. It exposes the places where your habits collapse without support. These are the most useful areas to train. You train them not with intensity, but with repetition and structure. You design friction into your environment to make failure harder and success easier. You test your improvements in predictable ways. What you find in solitude is unfiltered truth. You will see what holds steady and what disintegrates under pressure. That observation is the beginning of genuine improvement. The absence of performance makes space for correction. Discipline must extend to your surroundings. Your environment should reflect your standards. It should be clean, organized, and purposeful. Disorder in the environment reflects disorder in the mind. Design your room to match your values. Let your living space reinforce the direction you are committed to. Remove items that invite delay or regression. These are physical reminders of old routines. Clear them to reduce friction between intent and execution. Remove signals of your old behavior. These cues often trigger automatic responses that slow your progress. Add tools that align with your current priorities. Items that support writing, reflection, physical training, or deep focus. Keep books, notebooks, or tools visible that encourage structure and learning. Make the items you need easy to access, and the ones you no longer need difficult to reach. Eliminate passive entertainment from sight. Place visual friction in the way of low-quality input. Replace convenience with intention. Make friction high for behaviors that take you away from your standards. Your room should function like a training space. It should support stillness, learning, movement, and recovery. It should invite clarity. Make it easy to act. Build the environment so your next disciplined move requires less resistance. Remove choices that serve comfort at the expense of growth. Solitude is a condition to be cultivated. It is the space where internal order is created. It is where your values are clarified, your flaws are studied, and your systems are reinforced. It is where you break away from dependence and build self-sufficiency. Solitude strengthens the ability to lead yourself. It reveals whether your direction is genuine or simply reactive. It proves that you can think clearly without confirmation and act consistently without being watched. When this internal structure is in place, your actions are not influenced by popularity, urgency, or fear. They are guided by reason. They follow a standard you have chosen and protected. That standard becomes the architecture of your movement. It becomes the line you return to when distraction appears. Solitude, practiced with structure, becomes the foundation of your stability. You protect your solitude by treating it as necessary. You create barriers around it as you would around a resource you depend on. You keep it free from distraction. You choose a time for it and defend that time. You create rituals that signal its beginning: silence, pen to paper, or focused breathing. You do not escape into it, and you do not run from it. You use it to reset your direction. You evaluate the results of your days and correct what weakens your effort. You examine how your energy was spent and whether it built momentum. You track what is working and what is drifting off course. You design your days with review and improvement built into the structure. You hold yourself to the standard you once waited for others to impose. You become your own reference point. This is how solitude becomes strength. This is how structure is built from within. This is how the self is rebuilt alone. Chapter 3. The practice of voluntary discomfort. Growth does not wait for comfort. The Stoics trained themselves in hardship to remain steady under pressure. They practiced going without, doing more with less, and enduring what others avoided. This was not for the sake of suffering. It was to build command over the self. Exposure to voluntary discomfort gave them clarity. They knew how quickly a person could become dependent on convenience. Their goal was not resistance for its own sake. It was strength through mastery. They tested their limits in controlled ways so they would not be controlled by circumstances. To destroy the old you must prove to yourself that comfort is not your master. Comfort is useful, but it is not a guide. Begin with one area of excess that no longer contributes to your focus or strength. Eliminate it with precision. Practice fasting to develop control over appetite and reset your relationship with consumption. Walk in silence to increase internal awareness and reduce dependence on noise. Take cold showers to strip away the assumption that ease should be constant. Rise earlier than your patterns demand to sharpen intention and train against passive tendencies. Delay gratification in small daily decisions like delaying rewards, waiting to speak, or finishing difficult tasks before easier ones. Carry physical weight through resistance training or extended walking. Choose the stairs instead of the elevator. Do manual tasks without shortcuts. Use your body in ways that generate friction. Train your body to move under tension so that endurance becomes natural. Train your mind to stay steady under stress by choosing presence in high-pressure tasks. Choose stillness in conversation when you're tempted to interrupt. Choose discomfort in action when hesitation appears. Each one of these acts reshapes your identity through practice. Every one of these choices creates momentum. Voluntary discomfort teaches you where your limits are. Then it teaches you that most of those limits are imaginary. You begin to see that the mind gives up before the body and that fear often arrives before actual difficulty. You experience the separation between sensation and meaning. The old self was built on shortcuts, excuses, and avoidance. It followed ease and negotiated with effort at every step. The new self is built on strength and endurance. It moves toward what is difficult to become more capable. It honors difficulty as a necessary test. It pushes forward through friction without needing approval. Each decision to endure discomfort builds pattern recognition. You understand the discomfort, recognize it, and respond deliberately. Each act makes future discomfort more manageable. Every act of discomfort you choose becomes a signal to your subconscious. You are no longer the same. You are no longer willing to be ruled by ease or influenced by fear. You stop waiting for favorable conditions to act. You stop relying on emotional readiness to move. You focus on execution. You begin each task not based on comfort, but based on whether it must be done. You accept that hardship is not a threat, but a signal that you are expanding your capacity. It is a test of whether your behavior matches your principles. That signal is useful. You follow it, not to suffer, but to strengthen. Daily discomfort is a sharpening process. It strips away indecision by reducing emotional noise. It reveals what is essential by exposing what you can do without. You become leaner in thought and action by removing unnecessary steps and habits. You develop the ability to act without waiting for perfect conditions or ideal emotions. You learn to trust your structure instead of waiting for preference. You begin to view obstacles as training, not setbacks. You stop avoiding resistance and start leveraging it. You learn to hold your ground when things feel uncertain. You build a rhythm that does not collapse under tension. You stop shifting your goals based on mood. You make decisions from standards, not reactions. This is what the Stoics called preparation for life. It is the readiness to meet difficulty with calm and purpose. It is the strength to move forward even when comfort is absent. It is a daily practice, measured in choices, reinforced in behavior, and solidified in identity. Every moment you choose discomfort on purpose, you shape the kind of person you are becoming. Chapter 4. Learning to govern your own mind. The core of Stoicism is sovereignty of the mind. The person who does not rule his own thoughts will be ruled by someone else's. A mind without direction follows suggestion. The old self reacts. The rebuilt self responds with clarity. This clarity is not accidental. It is developed through repetition, deliberate examination, and constant correction. Your thoughts are not always true. They are often inherited, emotional, and distorted. They come shaped by influence, memory, instinct, and social conditioning. To govern them, begin by observing them without attachment. Let them surface without immediate response. Write them down, label them, trace them to their source. Are they grounded in reason, or are they responses formed through fear? Do they reflect deliberate thinking, or are they shaped by habit, comfort, or approval seeking? This tracking process gives structure to reflection. It turns random thought into accountable analysis. The Stoics practiced separating impressions from judgments. An impression is what you perceive. A judgment is what you add to it. The gap between the two is where freedom and reason can function. Most suffering comes from confused judgments, when you confuse opinion with reality or reaction with necessity. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Your reactions come from your interpretation, and your interpretation is shaped by your thinking. That thinking must be disciplined. Practice stillness before response. Do not be quick to explain, argue, or justify. Let the thought settle before acting on it. Ask yourself, is this thought useful? Does it strengthen what I stand for? Does it build or drain? Does it serve my principles or contradict them? If it has no value to your internal standard, discard it. Do not follow every emotional cue. Do not obey every impulse. Let clarity override urgency. Daily mental training includes journaling, reflection, silence, and exposure to truth. Journaling sharpens awareness. Reflection builds correction. Silence strengthens perception. Exposure to truth aligns your internal compass. Read works that reinforce reason, focus, and long-term discipline. Avoid input that encourages distraction or emotional reactivity. Speak only when your words serve a purpose. Listen to understand. Train your mind to pause before labeling, before reacting, before concluding. Be skeptical of thoughts that arise quickly and forcefully. They often come from old emotional habits that were never examined. Bring those habits under review. Replace the automatic with the intentional. The governed mind is not emotionless. It is structured. It respects emotion, but gives it context. It applies logic before action. It selects speech with care. It knows when to intervene and when to step back. It maintains a steady baseline so that emotion, impulse, and pressure do not hijack direction. This is the mind you are building, a mind formed through principles, protected by discipline, and prepared for adversity. Chapter 5. Letting go of external identity. You are not your job, your background, your relationships, or your possessions. These are circumstances. They are subject to change. They can support your purpose, but they cannot define it. Titles can be stripped. Positions can be lost. Relationships may shift. Possessions can be taken. If your identity is built on these, it is unstable. The Stoic self is built from the inside out. It is constructed from principle, not profile. To destroy the old you, stop defending a personal brand. Stop curating your image to match what others want to see. Stop performing for attention. The pursuit of impressions weakens authenticity. Every attempt to manufacture significance through perception lowers the stability of your foundation. Do the work in silence. Let your consistency speak instead of your commentary. Let your discipline speak instead of your ambition. Let your character speak instead of your titles. Status fades. Skill remains. Recognition fades. Virtue remains. You are what you can repeat when no one is watching. The self you build without applause is the self that will carry you when attention fades. External image cannot replace internal alignment. If who you appear to be requires constant maintenance, then you are not free. If your self-worth rises and falls with opinion, you are bound to external winds. Practice detachment from outcomes. Focus on process. Stay rooted in the action itself, not its result. Results may fluctuate, but execution can remain consistent. Let go of how others perceive your efforts. Stay focused on your direction. Learn to measure success by your ability to remain aligned. Measure yourself against your principles, not your visibility. As Marcus Aurelius said, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. Tie your peace to your own conduct. Make that your source of control. Build your contentment from action, not applause. Daily application means reducing your dependence on validation. Delete what you don't need. Remove apps, feeds, and feedback loops that turn your attention outward. Eliminate notifications that pull you toward unnecessary judgment. Stop checking for reactions. Refuse the impulse to monitor how others receive you. If a task is right, it remains right without reward. Make your actions so solid that you do not need applause. Let your self-respect come from your own standard. Build your day around what makes you effective, not what makes you impressive. Excellence comes from execution, not exhibition. Structure your behavior around alignment, not exposure. When your internal reference point becomes stronger than your need to be perceived, you begin to build stability. This shift creates quiet power. It replaces the need for recognition with the practice of internal validation. It transforms outward ambition into inward alignment. You become dangerous when you no longer need to be seen. Your intentions become unshakable because they are not seeking permission. Your direction is no longer open to the judgment of those who don't understand it. You become consistent when your energy is no longer spent trying to impress. That energy is redirected into action, into mastery, into the quiet work of progress. The reward becomes the rhythm of execution, not the noise it generates. You become calm when your identity no longer depends on approval. Your self-worth stabilizes when it is anchored to conduct rather than commentary. In this stillness, the new self begins to lead. It is a different kind of leadership, grounded in personal example rather than performance. It leads without permission, without applause, without distraction. It acts without needing reassurance. It holds its course without waiting for consensus. It stays clear without needing to be understood. It finds purpose without needing praise. It becomes a model of internal command. This is the kind of leadership Stoicism demands. It is rooted in principle, trained through solitude, and hardened by deliberate difficulty. It operates regardless of visibility. It does not shift with public response. This is what allows you to live from the inside out. When you hold to your structure without the need for approval, you remove the last dependency. You become less visible and more grounded. You operate with clarity while the world chases noise. You become less reactive and more focused. You conserve your energy for action. You build in silence and execute without delay. You lead by being, not by showing. And that kind of leadership cannot be shaken. It is quiet. It is stable. It is built for endurance. Chapter 6. Reclaiming your attention. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Wherever it goes, energy follows. If your attention is scattered, your energy is scattered. If your attention is hijacked, your decisions follow someone else's direction. To rebuild the self, you must reclaim attention from every source that pulls it without purpose. Stoicism begins here, training the mind to stay with what matters. Modern distractions are engineered. They are designed to interrupt, provoke, and pull. If left unguarded, your attention becomes fragmented by alerts, headlines, noise, and constant stimulation. You lose hours to tasks that are not your own. You drift into mental clutter, and each interruption erodes your presence. The old self thrived in this drift. The new self begins by stopping it. The Stoic trains the mind to remain with the task, to remain with the breath, to remain with the principle in the middle of interruption. This begins by subtracting what is unnecessary. Silence your devices during periods of focus. Remove visual clutter. Set boundaries for when and how often you check for updates. Attention must be directed by intention, not impulse. Reclaiming attention also requires watching where it leaks. Notice the times when you reach for stimulation without a reason. Track how often you avoid stillness. Interrupt those patterns by inserting deliberate pauses. Return your focus to the task, to the page, to the breath. Strength grows through this return. Each redirection is a training rep for your mind. Structure supports attention. Create a rhythm for your day that protects time for deep work, silence, and reflection. Avoid mixing unrelated tasks. Avoid switching before finishing. The disciplined mind finishes what it starts. It is not the volume of tasks that matters. It is the undivided energy given to each one. The attention you reclaim becomes the fuel for rebuilding. As clarity grows, noise loses its grip. The more focused you become, the more calm you become. You do fewer things, but each thing better. This is the strength of the Stoic mind, present, undivided, and governed by reason. Chapter 7. Building inner endurance. Endurance is the muscle behind every virtue. Without it, you quit. Without it, progress is temporary. Inner endurance is the ability to persist without relying on ideal conditions. It is forged in resistance, repetition, and refusal to retreat. The Stoics trained to endure cold, hunger, insult, and misfortune, not to show toughness, but to remain principled under pressure. You build inner endurance by showing up when you least feel like it. You train your body when the mind protests. You practice silence when you want to argue. You move forward when you feel doubt. The more often you do what is necessary without waiting for ease, the stronger your endurance becomes. This is the discipline that does not depend on mood. It is built through deliberate constraint, not accident. Each decision to persist without comfort is a statement of control. It tells the body and the mind that discomfort is not a limit. It's a condition you learn to operate in. Start by choosing actions that directly challenge your patterns of withdrawal. Push through the internal voice that wants delay. Identify moments where avoidance has become automatic. Those are the best places to train. Begin small. Hold a difficult posture longer. Write for 5 more minutes. Extend your focus without escape. These repetitions accumulate. They change your threshold for difficulty. You no longer require optimal conditions to take consistent action. Set tasks that require sustained effort and complete them. Read through difficulty. Exercise when tired. Speak the truth when uncomfortable. Hold to your routines even when the mood is missing. Strength is built in the gap between desire and duty. Each time you push through friction, you add weight to your character. Each act becomes a signal. This identity holds. Repetition is not just physical, it is psychological. You train yourself to return to effort without drama. The process becomes your foundation. Do not confuse endurance with suppression. Endurance is not the absence of difficulty, it is the decision to continue through it. Endurance welcomes the challenge as part of the process. It does not attempt to deny the presence of hardship. It absorbs it into the process and keeps moving. Emotions will still rise. Fatigue will still come. Frustration will present itself, especially when repetition feels unrewarded. The Stoic accepts both and keeps moving. He observes these responses and does not let them distort his direction. He does not argue with the test. He meets it as it is. He does not personalize discomfort. He does not attach identity to it. He examines it with distance. The discomfort becomes data, not danger. It becomes something to measure and refine, not something to avoid. When you shift your response, your power returns. You gain authority over yourself. You stop being thrown by what you expect. You stop retreating from familiar pain. You replace reaction with readiness. Chapter 8. Detaching from the noise of the world. To rebuild yourself alone, you must detach from the noise of the world. Noise is not just sound. It is mental interference. It is the accumulation of opinions, reactions, content and commentary that serve no functional purpose in your life. Noise interrupts your clarity, distorts your perception, and drains your energy. Stoicism demands that you filter what enters your mind as carefully as you train your body. Modern life encourages you to consume constantly. Information is everywhere, but wisdom is rare. Each input has weight, and the more unfiltered information you absorb, the less space you have for deliberate thought. Detachment is not withdrawal, it is control. It is the choice to regulate input so that your inner structure remains clear and aligned. Start by identifying the sources of mental noise in your life. These include gossip, unearned opinions, emotionally charged media, and endless commentary. Track how these inputs affect your state. If they make you reactive, distracted, or uncertain, they are noise. Begin subtracting. You do not need to react to everything you see. You do not need to know what everyone thinks. You do not need to explain yourself to strangers. You need to build a clean mind. Practice intervals of intentional disconnection. Turn off the feed. Walk without your phone. Spend time in silence. Let your mind settle. Let your attention return to your breath, your work, or your immediate environment. The Stoic draws power from stillness because it sharpens judgment. Stillness does not mean inactivity, it means directed energy. Use the quiet to think clearly. Review your principles. Revisit your decisions. Strengthen your reasoning. Do not outsource your evaluation to others. If a decision aligns with your values and serves your long-term structure, that is enough. Keep your thinking your own. Keep your judgment sharp. Detach from the crowd's urgency. The world will always pull at your attention, your time, and your emotion. It offers constant motion, but little clarity. It urges you to react, but rarely to reflect. Every broadcast, every trend, every interruption demands that you feel something quickly and act on it without pause. To resist this pull is not withdrawal, it is mastery. Your responsibility is not just to avoid being overwhelmed, but to protect the parts of yourself that are required for clear and purposeful living. Your attention is currency. Your time is structure. Your emotion is fuel. If you allow them to be scattered by the mood of the crowd, you will become reactive and unfocused. The noise will begin to shape your thoughts before you've examined them. Stoic detachment is not coldness, it is discipline. It is the deliberate rejection of urgency in favor of reason. You must choose where to invest your energy and what to ignore completely. To rebuild yourself alone, your inner space must be free from clutter. This does not only mean physical clutter, but mental congestion. You need room in your thoughts for silence, for revision, and for intention. Create space between stimulus and response. Slow down your decision-making until it becomes deliberate. Stop allowing the world to fill that space with noise. The more you empty your inner space of unnecessary input, the stronger your thinking becomes. Let the world keep its noise. Let others chase novelty, applause, and reaction. You keep your direction. Stay with what you know must be done. Choose your work over their attention. Choose your clarity over their confusion. Choose your process over their urgency. The Stoic path is not found in the volume of the crowd. It is found in the steadiness of those who walk without needing to be followed. Chapter 9. Practicing self-honesty without excuse. Rebuilding the self begins with clarity, and clarity demands honesty. Self-honesty is the refusal to deceive yourself about your effort, your motive, or your result. It is the internal discipline of seeing things as they are without softening the truth to preserve your image. This honesty is not cruelty, it is accuracy. Without it, progress is fiction. The Stoic sharpens his self-awareness not through judgment, but through examination. To practice self-honesty, you must monitor your reasoning. You must track your justifications and observe your decisions. Ask yourself throughout the day, why am I choosing this? What outcome am I avoiding? What am I pretending not to see? Most avoidance is internal. It is the silent refusal to confront something that reveals a weak spot in your character. Self-honesty makes that spot visible. Once it is visible, it can be repaired. Avoid using language that dilutes your responsibility. When you fail to act, name it clearly. Say, I chose not to do what I said I would. Do not say, I was tired, or it wasn't the right time. Use language that reinforces your ownership. Every time you remove a layer of excuse, you uncover a layer of strength. Honesty does not damage identity, it rebuilds it. It eliminates the gap between who you think you are and what you actually do. Review your conduct each evening. Write down what was done well and what was neglected. Do not inflate, do not excuse, speak only what is exact. This practice teaches you to trust yourself. It builds a mind that does not hide behind intentions. It acts, it corrects, it grows. The Stoics taught that no enemy is more dangerous than self-deception. It creates delay disguised as planning. It justifies weakness disguised as kindness. It protects patterns that destroy momentum. Rebuilding yourself alone requires that you take full command of your narrative. You must know what is true and remove what is not. You do not build strength through illusion. You build it through exposure. Each act of self-honesty is an act of construction. Each admission is a reset. You do not aim to feel good. You aim to become solid. This is how structure is formed, one truth at a time. Chapter 10. Standing alone without losing direction. The final test of rebuilding yourself alone is this. Can you stand without support, without reassurance, and without an audience, and still hold your standard? Can you rely solely on your principles when there is no praise, no validation, and no sign that anyone is watching? When nothing outside you reinforces your discipline, do you still act by principle? When approval disappears, can you stay committed to the structure you built in solitude? This is what it means to be unmoved by circumstance. This is the highest form of Stoic practice, unshaken internal order, grounded in deliberate choice. Standing alone is not isolation, it is independence. It is the condition where your structure must support itself. When you can no longer borrow clarity from others, you are forced to develop your own. It is in these moments, when voices fade and the room grows quiet, that your framework is either proven strong or shown weak. The self you have built must now be tested by solitude, pressure, and doubt. This is where integrity proves itself. You do not wait for inspiration. You do not wait for agreement. You act from decision. You lead yourself through action without needing confirmation that the path is popular. There will be moments when no one understands your choices, when your work brings no recognition, when your boundaries are questioned, when your principles are inconvenient, when you're dismissed, underestimated, or misread. These are the moments when your commitment is tested in silence. This is when the world asks if your direction is real or if it was borrowed from the attention that once followed you. These are not setbacks. They are moments of refinement. They are checkpoints that reveal what was built on principle and what was built on applause. In those moments, you do not need louder arguments. You need steadier action. You need to remain rooted when nothing affirms your effort. Your conduct speaks louder than your explanations. The less you need to explain, the more solid your identity becomes. Each decision made without praise becomes a marker of your autonomy. You reveal your foundation by how you respond to being unseen, by how you remain disciplined when no one is watching. Return to your structure, rise at the hour you committed to, follow the routines you built when no one else cared. Guard the standards you set with vigilance, revisit your principles in writing, not just to remember them, but to sharpen them. Practice them in motion, under pressure, without exception. Rebuild them each time the world pulls at your patience or your focus. Remember what each practice is training you for, not perfection, but resilience. Every repetition is a message to the world and to yourself. I move from within. I do not drift. I do not wait. I do not ask for permission to live with strength. This is discipline at its purest, living aligned without external cues, without emotional prompting, without borrowed motivation. This is the essence of command. It is quiet, it is firm, it is earned. You began this path by destroying what no longer served you. You removed the noise, the excess, the weakness, and the dependence. You examined your habits and replaced them with structure. You rewired your attention, reset your environment, and reclaimed your time. You questioned what you once defended. You stripped away the layers that kept you reactive and unfocused. You stopped giving energy to cycles that drained your strength and attention. Each removed behavior created space. Each cleared pattern made room for stability. You did not borrow identity. You built it. You rebuilt through stillness, endurance, clarity, and structure. You taught yourself to stand in discomfort without retreat. You disciplined your environment to reflect your internal goals. You trained your judgment with silence and repetition. You aligned your conduct with your principles and gave up your reliance on circumstances to dictate your direction. You moved from passivity to authorship. You replaced reaction with direction. You moved deliberately, with fewer words and more weight behind your actions. Now you lead, not because you were chosen, but because you have chosen yourself every single day. You carry yourself with certainty, not because it's easy, but because you have earned it. You do not flinch at solitude. You do not crumble when unnoticed. You lead from principle, not popularity. You are not seeking a title. You are not chasing recognition. You are proving an identity to yourself through effort, through standards, through the refusal to break. Every routine completed without applause confirms your direction. Every sacrifice made without complaint adds force to your structure. You move with intention. You carry the proof of your transformation in your decisions. This is how you stand alone. This is how you remain aligned. This is how you build a life that cannot be shaken, a life guided from within, protected by principle and executed with force, regardless of what the world sees or fails to see. The world does not need to notice your discipline for it to matter. The strength you build in silence remains with you long after the noise fades. You are not here to be seen. You are here to be solid.